Boston Celtics news and rumors. Could Boston trade Marcus Smart this offseason? Let's explore into this one a little bit, Chase. Harrison Graham here as well. It's been a weird season for Boston. If an early exit happens, look for Danny Ainge to maybe mix things up, and there's been some chatter, some ideas about maybe moving on from Marcus Smart.
The conversation goes both ways with Boston Celtics fans. Some people absolutely love him because he's a dog, he's tough, and he brings you a lot of defensive presence.
He's the soul of this
and
team.
He'll get up in your face and not be scared about it. The other side is this guy can be maddening. He can be very frustrating to watch, especially offensively, when he's just chucking up threes at inopportune times. Marcus Smart is a really good player, but as a fit on this current roster, I think we've seen this year, they just need to make some slight changes to the roster. Maybe it's Marcus Smart. So Hardwood Houdini came up with 3 players who the Celtics could trade Marcus Smart for. We're going to run through that list because I do believe that some of the names are somewhat intriguing. And Celtics fans, you can get fired up about the prospects of trading Marcus Smart. That's fine. We'll see what happens after the season. I'm on a wait-and-see approach, but you look at a guy like Bogdan Bogdanovic, if the Hawks are willing to trade him for Marcus Smart, I think you make that deal 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of this is like positional fit, right? Like Marcus Smart is a really good player, but they have a lot of guards on this team, a lot of 2 and 3s, and 1s as well, which is kind of where he fits in here. You get Bogdanovic, who is more of a pure wing and can space the floor. He can really shoot it. Now, maybe he got a bit overpaid, but he's played really well with the Hawks next to Trae Young. As a 1-for-1 trade here could be very, very intriguing. So pick a player, Celtics fans. Let us know who you would rather have. Type MS for Marcus Smart. Type BB for Bogdan Bogdanovic. Chase, I know you're in on the Bogdanovic train.
I'm going BB. This is a guy who's very efficient from the floor, shooting around 45, 46%. He's an 89% free throw shooter. When Trae Young was out, they were able to keep their heads above water because of Bogdan Bogdanovic. I actually don't think the contract where he got mid-$70 million range was all that bad because I actually think this guy's a really good player. Also, he was hurt to start the season. Now he's rounded into form.
Here's an interesting one. How about James Wiseman, who played 30, 40 games for the Warriors this year, had the injury and is out for the year, but a guy with the high ceiling and a guy that we saw really start to play well for Golden State.
Well, the Celtics have long needed a big man. Yes. I don't think that's any secret. And some people were getting on Harrison toward the NBA trade deadline saying, you're crazy, they don't need a center. Well, look what's happened to this team. Harrison was right, and he's right like 99% of the time.
They were giving Wagner minutes for a couple of games
there. Made no sense. So there's that in terms of the fit. Also, according to some reports out there, like the Warriors have long been interested in Marcus Smart. And in terms of positional fit, mentality, I think he'd be a pretty solid fit with the Golden State Warriors. I would not yet give up on James Wiseman. Look, kid's 19 years old, and he flashed at times in his rookie season before he got hurt with that knee injury. 11.5 points, almost 6 rebounds. He was pretty efficient from the floor, and I think this is a classic example of a player who's only going to continue to get better. If you're Boston, though,
would you do this straight up?
I would probably do the trade if I'm Boston.
Bit of a gamble, but
much younger player, a little bit more upside, and it fills a need. Okay.
Wiseman's got some real potential. There's no doubt about that. Rate him as a player. Scale it from 1 to 10. 10 being he's a freaking beast. 1 being he's a scrub. He's like 52-year-old Brian Scalabrine. Get your votes in 1 to 10. I love the White Mamba. Don't get it twisted. 1 to 10. Rate James Wiseman as a player. One more guy here, Christian Wood, who has been phenomenal for the Rockets. I think it's going to cost Smart and something else if you're going to try and sway him from Houston because he's been really good.
His progress has been insane. From the Philly area, went to UNLV, was a highly touted prospect when he went with the Runnin' Rebels. And then nobody really took a chance on him to start his NBA career. But since then, man, he's developed his game. In fact, he's become one of the best developmental stories across the entire association. My thought process here, Harrison, could be a pretty solid stretch big for the Celtics, a guy who can shoot, extend the floor a little bit, space things out for Jason Tatum as well as Jaylen Brown. It's been one of the lone bright spots on the Rockets because the numbers this year have been really, really good. I don't think he puts up these stupid numbers with Boston, but somewhat similar.
But this isn't one of those volume stats on a bad team. I mean, he's 51% from the floor. Like, it's not like he's, I'm trying to think of one of these examples.
And he shoots threes, so efficient.
21 and 10, 51.5%. He probably should have been an all-star for Houston. They were pushing for it. He did not end up making the all-star team. But 6'10", he can roll as well. A screen and pick-and-roll game would be nice, which is not something in the toolbox for Boston right now. Again, as we've said, they could use a big. So this one might intrigue me the most. And, hey, Houston is starving for draft picks, so
exactly
they could get
right.
some more in return.
It's crazy he wasn't drafted. Like, how?
I mean, he turned into a great player with Detroit, signs with Houston, and he's been awesome for this past season. Would you feel bad for sending Marcus Smart to the Rockets, who are in full rebuild? Type Y for yikes. Type S for sorry, Marcus. I like this question Chase put together here. So
can I go Y and S?
Y and S, like yikes, and we're also
yikes.
sorry.
Sorry to do it to you.
YS if both are true, which hey, I definitely think they are. If you want to subscribe to Boston Celtics Today, the link is right there below. It's youtube.com/CelticsTV. If you're watching live, we'll try and get that link in the live chat, youtube.com/CelticsTV. Got another Celtics story to jump into in just a second, but Chase and I are cranking out videos, the latest news, rumors, playoffs are around the corner. Off-season coverage is going to be lit as well, youtube.com/CelticsTV. Let's talk about a rumor surrounding Lonzo Ball in the Boston Celtics. I almost said a trade rumor, Chase, but he's actually a restricted free agent. Could Boston make an offer to Lonzo Ball, and would it make sense?
Well, not totally off on that because it could be a sign and trade because he is a restricted free agent. This really, really intrigues me because Lonzo Ball has made massive leaps this year. A lot of people ripped on him as a shooter to start his career because of the funky form. The percentage has skyrocketed. And Lonzo Ball is having a career season this year. 14.5 points per game. He's always going to be a good creator and passer, just like his younger brother. Maybe not throwing bowling ball passes the length of the floor like LaMelo
He's a good
is.
passer, though.
But check out the field goal percentage. I mean, that and the three-point percentage both have hovered around like 40% or so.
Yep.
And look, Lonzo Ball hasn't played as much point as probably he would prefer with the New Orleans Pelicans because Zion Williamson's been playing
trade deadline
a lot of point guard. There were trade deadline rumors. That's why there's some conversation being drummed up about Lonzo Ball to the Celtics, and I actually would really, really like it because Kemba Walker takes shot attempts and volume away from the two wings and Tatum and Brown. Maybe they need a pass-first guy like Ball.
By the way, and I'll just add this in there while you guys get your votes in on this one. Type D for deal, P for pass on would you sign Lonzo Ball. You just mentioned him. This probably only works if you move Kemba. Don't have to move him to New Orleans. Maybe a third team gets involved or a separate trade, but Kemba's $30 million contract per year is problematic for Boston trying to make a big offer on Lonzo Ball because if he's restricted and they can't orchestrate a sign and trade with New Orleans, you're going to have to offer more than $20 million a year to probably get him. So
yeah, that's why I'd hesitate.
It's going to cost a lot. D for deal, P for pass. We'll have to wait and see on this one. And like you said, it's going to come down to the money.
Yeah, it's going to come down to the money, and I think there's going to be a team out on the open market that's going to be willing to pay Lonzo Ball $25 million. I think the New York Knicks are a team to keep an eye on.
I think so.
Lonzo loves the big market. He really likes the popularity. He likes being the dude, right?
Yep.
Hasn't been that with the New Orleans Pelicans. Could more so do that and increase his brand power. Hashtag triple B, big baller brand. I don't even know if that's still a thing.
Harry, are those shoes still being made?
Big baller brand? Yeah. Who was copping those?
Too expensive.
But either way, Lonzo Ball does care about brand power, but it's going to come down to the money, no doubt.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Fascinating free agent list. He's definitely one of those guys to keep an eye on this offseason. And look for the Celtics to potentially shake things up if they have an early exit in the NBA playoffs. And I think Lonzo Ball could be an intriguing target. We'll take a look at the Eastern Conference here, Chase. Obviously, right now, the 76ers have that top seed. Just on paper, though, as you guys look at these matchups, Boston, Milwaukee, this is one that really stands out to me because in recent years, Milwaukee hasn't been able to get over the hump, but we know a team like Boston has been good come playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, the Boston Celtics this year have been maddening, they've been inconsistent, and it's been dumbfounding how poorly they've played at times. Now, there are a few reasons for that. They've been crushed by injuries, they've been hit hard by COVID, but I think anytime you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in a playoff series, they can go off and they can carry you in a series. So I look at that 3-6 matchup. The Milwaukee Bucks have a lot of playoff demons. There's no doubt about that, and they have fallen short in years past. There was also a report from Shams that if Mike Budenholzer and the Bucks don't make a deep run, he could be fired. So they're very motivated in that regard. They're also playing hot basketball right now, though. So that's a matchup that I really, really like as we take a look at the Eastern Conference standings.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the matchups there as we sit right now. You look at the conference standings. It looks like Philadelphia is kind of taking a firm grip, about 2.5 games up of Brooklyn. You got the Bucks who are closing in on the Nets, by the way, just a half game back. Knicks and Hawks have been a great story. More on that matchup later on. And then 6 through 10 right here, we mentioned Boston. You look at them and like Miami, those are two dangerous lower type of seeds potentially here as we progress along, and then 8 through 10 rounding out the current top 10. 11 through 15 here, 13 through 15 already eliminated. Orlando, Cleveland, and Detroit are out. Chicago and Toronto, they're outside looking in. They pretty much have to win out and get some help to rally and get into the play-in tournament. So, question for you guys, the audience, which team will win the Eastern Conference? Go ahead and get your votes in right now. We don't mean regular season. We mean who's going to rep the East in the NBA Finals.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and let us know. So we mentioned the Boston Celtics. I'm intrigued by this team and by that matchup that they will have with Milwaukee if things hold as they sit right now. Inconsistency, Chase, that has been the story. Inconsistency and really injury/COVID issues as well.
Yeah, because of that inconsistency, the injuries and COVID, they've been missing a lot of guys in the lineup, which has caused a lack of continuity late in games. And in clutch, close games, they just haven't performed all that well. But going back to my original point, Jason Tatum can play like an MVP. We've seen in stretches this year. He can put the team on his back and carry him. Jaylen Brown also. Some people question the fit. Maybe. We're talking about two guys who are 23 and 24 years old, so let's not hit the panic meter just yet. But I do like the Celtics because of those two guys as well as Brad Stevens.
Yeah, and I think you get them into a 7-game series with a team like the Bucks. Sure, on paper, Milwaukee should be better. Giannis would arguably be the best player in that series, but I wouldn't count out Boston if that happens. That being said, the way Milwaukee's playing right now, they're playing their best basketball at the right time. They've won 4 in a row. They've won 7 out of 10. They're on Brooklyn's heels, moving up for that number 2 seed. The question is, would you rather play Miami or Boston if you're Milwaukee? Because that's maybe what it's going to come down to for the Bucks here.
And you know who's been one of the most underrated players in the NBA, let's say over the last 5-10 years? Jrue Holiday, a great two-way guard, and I think the Bucks are what they are this year. They're playing like they're playing at 42 and 24 because of Jrue Holiday. He has this calming presence about him, and he's also just a lethal two-way player. I think he's been the difference for Milwaukee.
So Boston, Milwaukee, that would be a very exciting matchup. That's how things sit with those two teams right now. Milwaukee getting very, very close to that number 2 seed. Obviously, the number 1 and number 2 seeds await what happens in the play-in tournament. Could the Celtics pull off the upset if they face Milwaukee? Type U for they could pull off the upset. Type L for nah, they'd lose that series. Let us know in the comments real quick. I think they'd have a chance.
Could they? Yes. Will they? Leaning no right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. U for upset or L for lose that series. We mentioned today's show is presented by Manscape. They've been a longtime partner for us here at Chat Sports, and I got some news for you guys. I'm getting some breaking news from my producer. The Lawnmower 4.0 Chase has come out. This product is fantastic.
See, the good thing is 4 interchangeable guards. So that means you could use one guard to go downstairs, and if your lady likes a 5 o'clock shadow, you can vary it up a little bit.
Landing strip, perhaps?
Maybe a landing strip if you're a dude and you like to go crazy. Also, if you interchange the guard, you see that beard that Harrison Graham is rocking? You can trim that up and keep it tidy as well. I had somebody reach out to me this past week and they said, is using the Lawnmower 4.0 easier than scissors? All I said, 1,000,000%. I was left speechless. If you can use a great product like this that is on sale, if you use the promo code CHAT, 20% off plus free shipping, it's now on sale, $71.99. Use this instead of scissors, all right? That could end in a disaster.
By the way, the Lawnmower 4.0, it's got a wireless charging system. The ceramic technology is
LED light, too.
even better than the last product. They just continue to improve their products at Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com/chat. Get 20% off. Go check out the Lawnmower 4.0. It's 20% off when you use that link. Let's take a look further at the Eastern Conference playoff picture. We'll shift to the West in a minute here. We'll go a little faster here, Chase. This is the play-in bracket right now, 7 and 8. We did the explainer earlier. Heat, Hornets, that could be a little bit exciting. And then the Wizards, I think they're dangerous. If they emerge from the play-in, who knows what could happen with the way Westbrook and Beal can feel it up.
They got off to a disastrous start, but really over the last month or two, they've been on a tear, and they've had to play elite basketball because they got off to such a slow start.
The margin of error was so small.
The margin of error was so small. They had so much room to make up. Wizards are really dangerous, not just in the play-in, but when you have Bradley Beal and Westbrook, you can be dangerous in the first round as well.
And if the Wizards make it to the first round, they'll be the 8th seed, and they could be going up against the Philadelphia 76ers, who...
Embiid, Westbrook, they got beef.
And hey, the Sixers are red hot. They've won 6 in a row.
Yeah, Sixers are playing really well right now. Since Embiid has come back, they've been virtually unstoppable. And Doc Rivers has been a huge difference with this team,
no doubt.
as has Tobias Harris. It looked as though last year that contract where he was making 35, 36 average annual value was going to be one of the worst in the NBA. He's redeemed himself this year, and he's been one of the go-to late scoring options for the Sixers. Here's my concern with Philly, though. Who's going to be the go-to scorer late in games? In this era of the NBA, can you rely on Joel Embiid in the post to be the go-to guy down the stretch? Because he's not going to be a guy who's going to break you down off the dribble. And in my opinion, you need a wing. Yeah. Sixers and Nuggets are both in that conversation of, can you go with Jokic? Can you go with Embiid?
And as great as Harris is, he's not a, hey, here's the ball 30 feet from the basket, go break it down.
He's not
really his game. He plays within the flow of the offense. So good regular season team. We'll see come playoff time if this team can make a run. We do think Brooklyn can make a run. The problem is the big three haven't really played together the entire season. Harden, Kyrie, and Durant have all missed games for various reasons.
This is a scenario we've really never seen before. Not only is this one of the most talented and lethal offensive teams in the history of the NBA with some of the best scorers ever, but we've never seen a scenario where a team like this enters the playoffs having played 7 total games together if James Harden is able to come back in time prior to the playoffs starting on May 22nd. So my big concern, it's cohesion, it's the fact that they haven't played together, and what is James Harden's health? We'll get to it here in a little bit, but I'm a little bit concerned with that.
So speak up. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Who would win out of these two teams if they played in a 7-game series? Type PHI for the Sixers, BKN for the Nets. Go ahead and get your votes in on this one.